The security guard's hand slammed against Marcus Cole's chest, stopping him cold in the middle of the marble lobby. But Marcus didn't flinch. He gripped his 8-year-old daughter's hand tighter and said the words that would detonate a billion-dollar empire. "I'm here to claim my daughter's inheritance." The CEO's laughter echoed off the walls, cold, mocking, cruel. She called him a con artist, a beggar, a nobody. But when the DNA results arrived 72 hours later, her arrogance shattered into a silence that would change everything forever. And the truth she'd buried for 7 years finally clawed its way into the light. Drop a comment with your city name so I can see how far this story travels. Marcus Cole had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times, standing in the shower of the truck stop where he'd paid $3 for hot water, sitting in the driver's seat of his rusted Toyota while his daughter slept in the back, lying awake at 2 in the morning, staring at the stained ceiling of the homeless shelter, whispering the words until they felt natural. "I'm here to claim my daughter's inheritance." But nothing could have prepared him for the reality of walking through those revolving glass doors. Sterling Industries' headquarters rose 45 stories into the Manhattan sky. The lobby alone was bigger than the apartment Marcus had lost 6 months ago. Marble floors polished to a mirror shine. A chandelier that probably cost more than every car he'd ever owned combined. Men in suits that cost what he used to make in 3 months. Women in heels clicking across the floor like they owned the world. And then, there was Marcus, 38 years old. Jeans worn thin at the knees. A button-down shirt he'd ironed at the shelter that morning using a borrowed iron. Work boots held together with determination and duct tape. 2 weeks of stubble because razors cost money, and money was something he didn't have. And holding his hand, hiding slightly behind his leg, was Lily, 8 years old, brown hair and pigtails that Marcus had learned to braid from YouTube videos. A dress that was too small because she'd grown 2 inches since her mother died. Clutching a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days. She was the only reason he was here. "Daddy?" Her voice was small. "Everyone's looking at us." "I know, sweetheart. They look mad." "They're not mad. They're just surprised." Marcus squeezed her hand. "Remember what I told you. Keep my head up. Don't let anyone make me feel small. That's my girl." They made it exactly 14 steps before security intercepted them. The guard was big, 6'2", easy, broad shoulders straining against his uniform, a face that said he'd removed plenty of unwanted visitors and enjoyed every minute of it. "Hold it right there." Marcus stopped. Lily pressed closer to his leg. "This is private property." The guard's eyes swept over Marcus's worn clothes, his scuffed boots, his daughter's too small dress. "You need an appointment to be here." "I don't have an appointment." "Then you need to leave." "I'm not leaving." Marcus's voice was calm, steady, the voice of a man who had nothing left to lose. "I need to see Victoria Sterling." The guard's expression shifted from bored to annoyed. "Ms. Sterling doesn't see walk-ins, especially not—" He stopped himself, but the meaning was clear. "Especially not people like me." "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." Marcus reached into his jacket pocket slowly, carefully keeping his hands visible. He'd learned that lesson the hard way in neighborhoods where men like him were assumed to be dangerous. "I have a letter, a legal document. It says my daughter is entitled to claim her inheritance from the Sterling estate." The word inheritance hit the lobby like a grenade. Conversations stopped. Heels froze on marble. Every executive, every assistant, every person in that cathedral of glass and steel turned to stare at the poor man who'd just said the impossible. The guard's eyes went wide. "Your what?" "My daughter's inheritance." Marcus pulled the envelope from his pocket. "Her mother was Elena Cole. Before she married me, she was Elena Sterling, David Sterling's wife." The name David Sterling moved through the lobby like a shockwave. Marcus saw it in their faces. The recognition, the shock, the disbelief. David Sterling died 7 years ago, the guard said slowly. He didn't have any kids. Yes, he did. Marcus put his hand on Lily's shoulder. Her name is Lily. She's 8 years old. And according to this letter, she's entitled to her biological father's share of Sterling Industries. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then the whispers started. Did he say David Sterling? That's impossible. David never had children. Who is this guy? Security should throw him out. Look at them. Look at their clothes. Obviously a scam. Lily tugged on Marcus's hand. Daddy, I'm scared. I know, baby. He knelt down to her level, blocking out the staring faces, the cruel whispers. But we talked about this, remember? We're here because Mommy wanted us to be here. Because you deserve what's yours. I don't want money. I want Mommy back. Marcus's heart cracked down the middle. I know, sweetheart. I know. But Mommy asked me to do this. She made me promise. He tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. So we're going to be brave together, okay? Just like Mommy taught us. Lily nodded, clutching her rabbit tighter. Marcus stood and faced the guard. I'm not leaving until Victoria Sterling sees this letter. The guard reached for his radio. Ms. Sterling, we have a situation in the main lobby. Static. Then a voice, sharp, cold, irritated. I'm in a board meeting, Thomas. Handle it. Ma'am, you need to come down. It's about your brother. Silence. A silence that stretched for 3 seconds, then 5, then 10. I'll be right down. The elevator chimed 90 seconds later. The doors opened, and Victoria Sterling stepped out. She was 52 years old, but she moved like a woman half her age. Silver hair cut in a sharp bob. A charcoal suit that probably cost more than Marcus's car. Heels that clicked with absolute authority. Eyes like ice. She was power incarnate. Success made flesh. Everything that Marcus Cole was not. Her gaze swept the lobby, landed on Marcus and Lily, and her expression didn't just show contempt, it radiated it. Thomas? Her voice could have frozen the Hudson River. Why is there a homeless man in my building? And why did he bring a child? The words landed like physical blows. Around them, people gasped. Someone laughed quickly, smothered. A woman in pearls clutched her designer bag like poverty might be contagious. Lily whimpered and hid behind Marcus's leg. But Marcus didn't flinch. He'd been insulted by better people than Victoria Sterling. He'd been called worse names by landlords and bosses and strangers on the street. Words couldn't hurt him anymore. I'm not homeless, he said evenly, and I'm not leaving until you hear me out. Victoria's eyebrows rose. Excuse me. My name is Marcus Cole. He stepped forward, and Victoria actually took a half step back. My wife was Elena Cole. Before she married me, she was Elena Sterling, your brother David's wife. Victoria's face went white. They eloped 8 years ago. Marcus continued. Your family didn't approve. Said Elena was unsuitable. Poor. Beneath the Sterling name. So David married her in secret. And 6 months later, he died in a plane crash. He paused. 2 weeks before Elena found out she was pregnant with his child. That's a lie. Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. David wasn't married. He didn't have... He did. Marcus pulled Lily gently forward. Her name is Lily Elena Cole. She's 8 years old. She has her father's eyes. Victoria stared at Lily, and Lily stared back. The lobby was absolutely silent. No. Victoria shook her head. No. I don't know what con you're running, but it won't work. David wasn't married. He didn't have any children. This is fraud, and I'm calling the police. It's not fraud. Marcus held out the envelope. This letter was issued by your company's legal department 7 years ago. It confirms that any biological child of David Sterling is entitled to his 40% share of the company. Your father put it in his will. Victoria snatched the envelope. Her hands shook as she pulled out the document. Her eyes scanned the page once, twice, 3 times. Marcus watched the color drain from her face. Where did you get this? Elena kept it. For 7 years she kept it and never used it. Never claimed a penny. You want to know why? This is a forgery. It's not a forgery and you know it. Marcus's voice hardened. Elena never used that letter because she knew exactly what would happen. She knew you'd call her a gold digger, a con artist, a nobody trying to steal money from your precious family. So instead of fighting for what Lily deserved, she worked herself to death. Victoria looked up from the letter. Worked herself to death. 3 jobs. Marcus felt his throat tighten. Elena worked 3 jobs. She cleaned office buildings at night, did laundry services during the day, babysat on weekends, 70-80 hours a week for 8 years. Because that's what it takes to survive when you're poor and alone and raising a child. If she needed money, she could have what come to you. Ask the family that rejected her for help. Marcus laughed bitterly. Elena knew better. She knew you'd treat her exactly like you're treating me right now. Like she was garbage. Like she didn't matter because she didn't have money. Victoria's jaw tightened. I'm not. You called me homeless. You looked at my daughter like she was a stain on your floor. You assumed we were criminals before we said a single word. Marcus stepped closer. Elena was right about you. Right about all of you. And she died protecting Lily from people like you. Died. The word seemed to catch Victoria off guard. Elena is dead. 6 months ago. Her heart just stopped. The doctor said it was exhaustion. Years of overwork, not enough sleep, too much stress. Marcus's voice cracked. She collapsed in our kitchen. I held her hand while we waited for the ambulance. Lily was at school. By the time I got to the hospital, he couldn't finish. Lily pressed against his side, crying silently. She was 36 years old. Marcus wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. 36. And she died because she was too proud to ask for help from people she knew would reject her. The lobby was silent. Even Victoria seemed stunned. Elena's last wish, Marcus continued, his voice shaking, was for Lily to know her father's family, to know where she came from, to claim what was rightfully hers. He pulled Lily close. I didn't come here for money. I came here because I made a promise to my wife. Because Lily deserves to know the truth about who she is. Victoria stared at him, then at Lily, then back at him. Thomas? Her voice was strange, hollow. Call Lawrence Abbott. Tell him to come down immediately. Ma'am, now. 3 minutes later, another man emerged from the elevator. He was older, 60s, simple suit, glasses, carrying a worn leather briefcase. His eyes swept the scene. Marcus, Lily, Victoria, the watching crowd with sharp intelligence. Victoria, what's going on? Lawrence, this man claims David had a daughter. He has documentation. Lawrence Abbott had been the Sterling family's attorney for 30 years. He'd drafted David's will. He'd been there the day the company learned David had died. And as he looked at Lily Cole, his face went completely white. Dear God, his voice was barely audible. She has his eyes. Victoria spun. What? Those eyes. Lawrence walked closer to Lily, studying her face. David had unusual eyes, brown with gold flecks. I've only ever seen eyes like that once in my life on your brother. He looked at Marcus. May I see the letter? Marcus handed it over. Lawrence read it once, twice, then pulled out his phone and typed something rapidly. A moment later, his phone chimed. He read whatever appeared on the screen. His hand started shaking. Victoria. His voice was carefully controlled. We need to speak privately, now. Whatever you have to say, you can say here. Victoria. Say it. Lawrence cleaned his glasses. His hands were still trembling. The letter is authentic. The signature matches our archives. The document number is in our system. He looked at Victoria with something like fear. This letter was issued by our legal department 7 years ago, as specified in your father's will. If David ever had biological children, they would automatically inherit his 40% share. Victoria's face was gray. That's impossible. I've confirmed it with our database. The document is real. Lawrence turned to Marcus. When is Lily's birthday? March 7th. Lawrence did the math. His expression grew more ashen. David died in October 8 years ago. If Lily was born the following March... Elena was already pregnant when David died, Victoria finished. Her voice was hollow. He never knew. Marcus nodded. She found out 2 weeks after the crash. She told me she screamed so loud the neighbors called the police. Victoria closed her eyes. For a long moment she stood there in the middle of her marble lobby surrounded by her employees and executives, and she looked almost human. Then her eyes opened, and the ice was back. We'll do a DNA test. Fine. If the results are negative, you'll be arrested for fraud and attempted extortion. They won't be negative. If they're positive... Victoria stopped. She seemed unable to complete the sentence. If they're positive, Lawrence said quietly, Lily inherits David's entire share. At current valuation, that's approximately $450 million. The number echoed through the lobby. Lily tugged on Marcus's hand. Daddy, what's $450 million? Marcus knelt down. It's a lot of money, sweetheart. Is it enough to bring Mommy back? The question hit Marcus like a punch to the chest. No, baby, it's not. Lily nodded solemnly. Then I don't want it. Victoria made a sound something between a gasp and a sob. She turned away quickly, but not before Marcus saw the tears in her eyes. Lawrence. Victoria's voice was thick. Arrange the DNA test. Tonight. Of course. And... She hesitated, swallowed hard. Where are they staying? Marcus straightened. That's not your concern. It is, if she's my brother's daughter. She's been my daughter for 6 years. Where we sleep isn't... Where are you staying? Victoria's voice was almost gentle, almost human. Marcus met her eyes. Our car, for the past 2 weeks. The lobby went completely silent. You're living in your car. Victoria's voice was flat. With an 8-year-old child. We had an apartment. I lost my job. Couldn't make rent. We've been in the car since then. Before that, we were in a shelter. Why didn't you... Victoria stopped herself. She knew the answer. They all knew the answer. Because nobody helped people like Marcus Cole. Because the world assumed people like him were lazy or criminal or worthless. Because asking for help only brought judgment and contempt. Daddy's a good daddy. Lily's voice was surprisingly strong. He makes sure I eat breakfast and lunch. He reads me stories every night. He does funny voices for all the characters. Victoria looked at Lily, really looked at her, and something in her face shifted. Lawrence, arrange a hotel suite. Tonight, whatever they need. Marcus shook his head. I don't want your charity. It's not charity. It's... Victoria struggled with the words. It's what David would want. If there's even a chance she's his daughter. She trailed off. We don't need Daddy. Lily tugged on his hand. Can we please sleep in a bed tonight? My back hurts from sleeping in the car. Marcus closed his eyes. He wanted to refuse. Every instinct told him to refuse. To walk out of this building and never come back. To protect his daughter from these people who looked at them like they were less than human. But Elena's voice echoed in his head. Promise me, Marcus. Promise me you'll give Lily what's hers. Okay. His voice was rough. One night, until the DNA results come back. Victoria nodded. Lawrence, make the arrangements. The test will take 72 hours to process. Lawrence pulled out his phone. 3 days. 3 days. Marcus looked at Victoria. And then we'll know. Yes. Victoria met his eyes. Then we'll know. For a moment they stood there, the billionaire CEO and the homeless father, separated by worlds, but connected by a child who might be the bridge between them. Come with me. Victoria turned toward the elevator. Both of you. Marcus hesitated. Please. The words seemed to cost her something. I won't. I'll try not to be. She couldn't finish the sentence. You'll try not to be cruel. Victoria flinched. Yes. Marcus took Lily's hand. You hear that, sweetheart? She's going to try. Trying is good. Lily looked up at Victoria with those brown and gold eyes, David Sterling's eyes. Mommy always said trying is the first step. Victoria's composure cracked. Just for a second, just a fraction of a moment. But Marcus saw it. The grief, the guilt, the humanity she tried so hard to hide. Maybe, just maybe, Elena had been wrong about the Sterling family. Or maybe Victoria Sterling was about to prove Elena right. Either way, Marcus would find out in 72 hours, and nothing would ever be the same again. The elevator doors closed and the silence became suffocating. Victoria stood on one side, rigid as a statue, staring at the numbers climbing higher. Marcus stood on the other, holding Lily's hand, watching Victoria's reflection in the polished brass doors. Lily clutched her stuffed rabbit and looked between the two adults. Are you really my aunt? Victoria's jaw tightened. We don't know yet. But the man with the glasses said I have my daddy's eyes. Lawrence is sentimental. He sees what he wants to see. Marcus felt anger flare in his chest, but forced it down. Lily, why don't you count the floors? We're going all the way to the top. Okay, Daddy. 32, 33, 34. The elevator climbed in silence, broken only by Lily's soft counting. At 45, the doors opened. Victoria's office was exactly what Marcus expected. Cold, pristine, massive windows overlooking Manhattan like she owned the city. Maybe she did. Sit. Victoria gestured to a leather sofa that probably cost more than Marcus's annual salary when he'd had a job. Lawrence will arrange the DNA test and the hotel. Marcus guided Lily to the sofa. She sank into the leather and immediately looked uncomfortable, like she was afraid of getting it dirty. Can I look out the window, Daddy? Ask Ms. Sterling. It's her office. Lily turned to Victoria with those brown and gold eyes. Can I please look out the window, ma'am? Victoria stared at the child for a long moment. Something flickered across her face. Pain maybe, or memory. Yes, you can look. Lily scrambled off the sofa and pressed her face against the glass. Daddy, look! I can see the whole city. There's the Empire State Building. And the park. Mommy took me to that park once. We had a picnic. Marcus watched his daughter's wonder and felt his heart crack a little more. She talks about Elena a lot. Victoria's voice was strange, quiet. Elena was her mother. I meant... Victoria stopped, started again. She seems to have good memories. Elena made sure of that. Even when we had nothing, she made sure Lily had good memories. Victoria turned away from him, walking to her desk, putting distance between them. Tell me about my brother. I never met him, but Elena talked about him. Sometimes. Marcus watched Lily press her palms against the glass, leaving small handprints. She didn't like to. It made her sad. What did she say? Marcus considered the question. Considered lying. Decided on truth. She said he was the only person who ever made her feel like she mattered, like she was worth something. She said he looked at her like she was the most important person in the world, and nobody had ever looked at her that way before. Victoria's hand gripped the edge of her desk. She also said his family destroyed everything, that they told him Elena was beneath him, that she was a gold digger trying to trap him, that if he married her, they'd disown him. That's not... Elena said David didn't care. He said he loved her, and that was all that mattered. So they eloped, got married at a courthouse with 2 strangers as witnesses, and for 6 months they were happy. Victoria's knuckles went white. Then the plane crash. Yes, And she never told anyone she was pregnant. She found out 2 weeks after the funeral. She was alone, terrified. Your family had made it clear she wasn't welcome. She didn't know what to do. She could have come to us. We would have... Would have what? Marcus's voice hardened. Welcomed her with open arms. You just called me homeless in front of 100 people. You looked at Lily like she was garbage. Why would Elena think you'd treat her any differently? Victoria had no answer. The silence stretched. Lily pressed her nose against the glass. There's a bird. Daddy. There's a bird all the way up here. I see it, sweetheart. Lawrence knocked and entered without waiting for a response. The DNA test is arranged for this evening. The results will take 72 hours. I've also booked a suite at the Waldorf. The Waldorf? Marcus shook his head. That's too much. A regular hotel is fine. It's not negotiable. Victoria's voice was cold again, businesslike. If there's any chance she's David's daughter, she's not staying in some roadside motel. We've stayed in worse. I'm sure you have. That doesn't mean you should. Marcus wanted to argue, wanted to throw the offer back in her face, but Lily was still staring out the window with wonder, and he remembered how she'd cried when the apartment got cold because he couldn't afford heating, how she'd asked why they had to sleep in the car, how she'd stopped asking for things because she knew they couldn't afford them. Fine, the Waldorf. There's one more thing. Lawrence pulled a folder from his briefcase. The DNA test revealed something else in our initial screening, a genetic marker. Marcus's blood ran cold. What kind of marker? It's a heart condition that runs in the Sterling family. David had it. Victoria has it. And based on the preliminary blood work, Lily has it too. Lawrence nodded slowly. It's manageable with proper medical care. Monitoring medication, regular checkups. But if left untreated, what happens if it's left untreated? Lawrence's silence was answer enough. Marcus turned to look at his daughter, still pressed against the window, still counting birds, still innocent and unaware that something inside her was broken. How long? His voice came out as a whisper. How long has she had this? Since birth. It's genetic. And Elena knew? Another heavy silence. We can't confirm that without... Elena knew. Marcus's voice cracked. That's why she worked so hard. That's why she never stopped. She knew Lily might need medical care someday, expensive medical care, and she was trying to save enough money to... He couldn't finish. Elena hadn't just worked herself to death for rent and food. She'd worked herself to death because she knew their daughter had a time bomb in her chest, and she couldn't afford to defuse it. Mr. Cole. Lawrence's voice was gentle. If Lily is confirmed as David's daughter, she'll have access to the best medical care money can buy. The Sterling family health plan covers everything. And if she's not confirmed... Lawrence didn't answer. Right. Marcus laughed bitterly. If she's not a Sterling, she gets nothing. No inheritance, no medical care, nothing. That's not, Victoria started. That's exactly how it works. Marcus turned to face her. You people have no idea, do you? No idea what it's like to choose between food and medicine, between rent and a doctor's visit. Elena made those choices every single day. She skipped her own medications so Lily could have hers. She went without food so Lily could eat. And you stand there in your $5,000 suit and tell me that's not how it works. Victoria's face was ashen. Daddy. Lily had turned from the window. Her small face was worried. Why are you yelling? Marcus forced himself to breathe, to calm down, to remember that none of this was Lily's fault. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm not yelling. I'm just... talking loudly. You talk loudly when you're scared. Lily walked over and took his hand. It's okay to be scared, Daddy. Mommy said being scared means you love someone enough to worry about them. Marcus pulled her close, burying his face in her hair, hiding his tears. Over Lily's head he saw Victoria watching them. and for the first time, her Ice Queen mask showed real cracks. "The test is at 7 o'clock. Lawrence's voice was quiet. "The car will take you to the hotel first. You can rest." Marcus nodded without speaking. "I'll walk you down." Victoria's offer surprised everyone, including herself. The elevator ride down was different from the ride up. Victoria stood closer to them now. She kept glancing at Lily at her eyes, her chin the way she stood. "She stands like David." Victoria's voice was barely audible. "What?" "The way she holds herself, trying to be brave when she's scared. David used to stand exactly like that when our father yelled at him." Marcus looked at his daughter. "Elena used to say the same thing, that Lily had someone else's courage. David was the bravest person I ever knew." Victoria's voice was thick. "He stood up to our father when nobody else would. Fought for what he believed in, even when it cost him everything. It cost him his family. Yes. Victoria stopped, started again. "I told him Elena was a mistake, that she was after his money, that he was being naive and foolish." Her voice broke. "The last time I saw him, we had a terrible fight. I said things I can never take back. And then he got on that plane and you never got to apologize." Victoria's silence confirmed it. The elevator reached the lobby. The doors opened. A black car waited outside. "Ms. Sterling?" Marcus stopped at the door. "If the test is positive, what happens then?" "Then Lily inherits David's share. $450 million. "That's not what I'm asking." Victoria met his eyes. "I know. Which will you fight it?" "Try to take her money. Try to prove the letter is fake." "The letter isn't fake. I know my father's handwriting. I know our legal department's seal." Victoria's jaw tightened. "If the test is positive, I won't fight it." "But you don't want it to be positive." "I don't know what I want." The honesty seemed to surprise her as much as it surprised Marcus. "Part of me hopes you're lying, that this is all an elaborate con, because if it's real, then my brother had a daughter I never knew about. He had a wife I treated like garbage. He had a whole life I knew nothing about because I was too proud and too cruel to see past my own prejudices." Marcus said nothing. "If it's real," Victoria continued, "then I have to face the fact that I failed him. Failed his wife. Failed his daughter. For 8 years my niece has been out there struggling, suffering, while I sat in my office counting money. You couldn't have known." "I should have looked." Victoria's voice was fierce. "After David died, Elena disappeared. I told myself she'd moved on. Found someone else. I told myself it was for the best. But the truth is, I was relieved she was gone, because I'd never approved of her, never thought she was good enough for my brother, and her absence meant I didn't have to pretend anymore." Lily tugged on Marcus's hand. "Daddy, I'm tired." "I know, sweetheart. We're going to the hotel now." "Will there be a bed?" "Yes, a big soft bed." "And a bathtub." "I want a bath. I haven't had a bath in forever." Marcus's heart clenched. "Yes, baby. There'll be a bathtub." Victoria watched the exchange with something like horror dawning on her face. This child who might be her brother's daughter, was excited about having a bathtub, about sleeping in a bed. Things Victoria had never once in her life thought about, because she'd never once in her life gone without them. "Go." Victoria's voice was rough. "Get some rest. The car will pick you up at 6:30 for the test." Marcus nodded and guided Lily toward the waiting car. "Mr. Cole?" He turned. Victoria stood in the lobby doorway, backlit by the chandelier, looking nothing like the Ice Queen who'd called him homeless 3 hours ago. "I'm sorry." The word seemed to cost her everything. "For what I said earlier, about you being homeless, about—" She gestured vaguely. "All of it. I've heard worse." "That doesn't make it right." Marcus studied her for a long moment. "No, It doesn't. But it's a start. He got in the car. Lily immediately pressed her face against the window, watching the city blur past. "Daddy, that lady is sad." "What?" "The lady in the suit. She's really sad. I could tell." Marcus looked at his daughter with wonder. 8 years old, and she could see through Victoria Sterling's armor better than anyone. "Yeah, sweetheart. I think she is. Maybe we should be nice to her." "Maybe we should." The hotel suite was bigger than the apartment they'd lost, bigger than the homeless shelter, bigger than any place Marcus had ever lived. Lily ran through the rooms, touching everything, gasping at everything: the king-sized bed, the marble bathroom, the bathtub big enough to swim in the room service menu, the windows overlooking Central Park. "Daddy, look. There's chocolate on the pillow. Save it for after dinner. There's a TV in the bathroom. Don't watch TV in the bathroom. There's a robe, a fluffy robe. Can I wear it?" Marcus caught her in the middle of the room and hugged her tight. "You can wear whatever you want. This place is amazing." Lily's voice was muffled against his chest. "How much does it cost?" "Don't worry about that. Is it a lot?" "Yes. More than our apartment. Much more." Lily pulled back and looked at him with serious eyes. "Daddy, if the test says I'm that man's daughter, does that mean I'm not your daughter anymore?" Marcus's heart stopped. "What? No, Lily, no. You're my daughter. You'll always be my daughter." "But the letter says my real daddy is someone else." Marcus knelt down so he was eye level with her. "Listen to me. David Sterling might be your biological father. That means he helped create you. But I'm the one who raised you. I'm the one who braided your hair and read you stories and taught you to ride a bike. I'm the one who was there when you were sick and scared and sad. That makes me your daddy. That will never change. Promise." "I promise. Even if I get $450 million. Marcus laughed, despite everything. "Even then." "Good." Lily hugged him again. "Because I don't want a new daddy. I just want you." They ordered room service burgers and fries and chocolate cake that cost more than a week's worth of groceries. Lily ate until she couldn't eat anymore, then took a bath that lasted an hour, then climbed into the massive bed wearing the fluffy hotel robe. "Will you read me a story, Daddy?" "We don't have any books, sweetheart." "Make one up, like you used to." So Marcus sat on the edge of the bed and made up a story about a brave princess who lived in a forest and had magical powers, and Lily fell asleep before he finished her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. Marcus sat there for a long time watching her breathe. Elena had missed so much, would miss so much more. She'd never see Lily grow up, never see her graduate, never see her become the amazing person she was destined to be. But maybe, just maybe, she'd given Lily a chance at a better life, a life with resources and opportunities and medical care, a life without struggling and suffering and choosing between food and rent. If the test was positive. If. Marcus walked to the window and stared out at the city lights. "I hope I'm doing the right thing, Elena." His voice was barely a whisper. "I hope this is what you wanted." Somewhere out there across the city, Victoria Sterling sat in her penthouse apartment and stared at a photograph. It was old-faded, creased from years of handling. Two young men, arms around each other's shoulders, laughing at something off camera. David and Victoria 30 years ago, before everything went wrong. "I'm sorry, David." Victoria's voice cracked. "I'm so sorry." She'd spent 8 years trying to forget him, trying to bury the guilt, trying to pretend that the last words she'd said to him, cruel, cutting, unforgivable words, didn't matter, because he was dead and the dead couldn't hear apologies. But now, his daughter was alive. His daughter with Elena, the woman Victoria had dismissed as a gold digger, the woman who'd apparently worked herself to death rather than ask the Sterling family for help. Victoria poured herself a scotch, then another, then a third. She thought about Marcus Cole standing in her lobby, worn clothes and duct-taped shoes, holding his daughter's hand with quiet dignity. She thought about how she'd called him homeless, how she'd looked at him like he was garbage, how she'd proved every fear Elena had ever had about the Sterling family. And she thought about Lily. Those eyes. David's eyes. Looking up at Victoria with a mix of fear and hope that Victoria didn't deserve. She finished her scotch and made a decision. The hotel security guard looked surprised when Victoria Sterling walked through the lobby at 11:30 at night. "Ms. Sterling, can I help you?" "What room is Marcus Cole in?" The guard hesitated. "I'm not sure I can. I'm paying for the room. Tell me the number." "Suite 1812. Victoria took the elevator up, her heart pounding in a way it hadn't pounded in years. She didn't knock on the door. Instead, she stood in the hallway listening. At first there was nothing. Then faintly, she heard a voice. Marcus's voice, low and gentle. And then the princess used her magic powers to defeat the dragon, and everyone in the kingdom was safe. The end. A child's sleepy voice responded. "That was a good story, Daddy." "Thank you, sweetheart." "Will you tell me another one tomorrow?" "I'll tell you 100 more." "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, Lily, more than anything in the world." Victoria stood frozen in the hallway, tears streaming down her face. This was what David would have wanted. Not the money, not the company, not the Sterling legacy. This, a father reading bedtime stories, a child saying, "I love you," a family held together by something stronger than blood or wealth. Elena had given Lily this. Marcus had given Lily this. And Victoria had almost destroyed it with her contempt and her cruelty. She turned and walked back to the elevator. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she sat in the dark thinking about her brother, about choices, about the person she'd become, and the person she could still be. The DNA test took 15 minutes. The waiting took 3 eternities. Day 1. Marcus and Lily explored Central Park. Lily fed the ducks. She laughed, really laughed, for the first time since Elena died. Marcus took photos on his phone, photos he'd never be able to afford to print, but photos he'd treasure forever. Day 2. Lawrence came to the hotel with paperwork, contracts, legal documents, explanations of trusts, and inheritance laws. Marcus's head spun with terminology he didn't understand. Lawrence explained everything patiently, but the only words that stuck were $450 million and heart condition. Day 3. The morning of the results. Marcus woke at dawn. Lily was still asleep, sprawled across the massive bed, her rabbit tucked under her chin. He stood at the window and watched the sun rise over Manhattan. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Results are in. Car will pick you up at 9. Victoria Marcus stared at the message for a long moment. Today, everything would change. Either Lily would become one of the richest children in America, with access to medical care and opportunities beyond imagination, or they'd be back in the car by nightfall, with nothing but a letter and 3 more days of hope before reality crushed them. "Daddy!" Marcus turned. Lily was sitting up in bed, rubbing her eyes. "Is it time?" "Almost, sweetheart. Get dressed. We're going to find out the truth." Lily nodded solemnly. "Daddy, whatever happens, I'm glad we came. I'm glad I got to sleep in a real bed, and take a bath, and eat chocolate cake." Marcus's heart cracked. His daughter was grateful for a bed and a bath because she'd learned not to expect such luxuries. "Me too, baby. Me too." The car arrived at 9. Lawrence was already inside. "Ms. Sterling is waiting at the office." His voice was carefully neutral. "The results are in a sealed envelope. She wanted to open it together." "Why?" Lawrence didn't answer, but his silence spoke volumes. The drive to Sterling Industries was quiet. Lily pressed her nose against the window, watching the city wake up, while Marcus tried to calm his racing heart. Victoria was waiting in the lobby. She looked different today, softer somehow, less armor, more human. She wore a simple black dress instead of a power suit. Her hair was loose instead of severely styled. The results are upstairs. Victoria's voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. Lawrence, I have the envelope. They took the elevator up in silence. The same elevator Marcus had ridden 3 days ago, when he'd been nothing but a poor man with a worn letter and a desperate hope. Now, 72 hours later, he was about to find out if that hope was justified. Victoria's office was unchanged. Cold. Pristine. Windows overlooking the city. But this time, there was something different. A photograph on her desk that hadn't been there before. David Sterling, young and handsome, smiling at the camera. I found it in storage. Victoria's voice was quiet. I'd put away all his photos after he died. I couldn't bear to look at them. But now? Now you want him to be here for this? Yes. They sat. Lawrence placed the envelope on the desk between them. Before I open this, Lawrence said carefully, I want to make something clear. Whatever these results say, nothing will change certain facts. Marcus, you've raised Lily for 6 years. You're her father in every way that matters. Victoria, you've had a chance to see who this child is regardless of DNA. Just open it. Marcus's voice was rough. Lawrence opened the envelope. He read the paper once, twice. His face revealed nothing. Then he looked up, and his eyes were bright with tears. The test is conclusive. Lily Cole is David Sterling's biological daughter with 99.99% certainty. Victoria made a sound like she'd been stabbed. Marcus couldn't breathe. Lily tugged on his sleeve. Daddy, what does that mean? Marcus pulled her onto his lap, holding her tight. It means your mommy was telling the truth, sweetheart. David Sterling was your father, your biological father. So I have 2 daddies. You have one daddy who raised you, and one daddy who would have loved you so much if he'd known about you. Victoria stood abruptly, walking to the window, pressing her forehead against the glass. David had a daughter. Her voice was shattered. My brother had a daughter. All these years I had a niece and I didn't know. She grew up poor. She slept in cars. Her voice broke. While I was here counting money building empires, she was out there suffering, and I never knew. You couldn't have known. Marcus surprised himself by saying it. I should have looked. After David died, after Elena disappeared, I should have looked. Victoria turned and her face was streaked with tears. But I didn't look because I didn't want to find anything. Because I was relieved Elena was gone. Because I'd convinced myself she was nothing, that she meant nothing, that David's love for her was a mistake. Victoria. I was wrong. Victoria walked to Lily and knelt down, bringing herself to the child's level. I was wrong about your mother. I was wrong about your father. I was wrong about everything. Lily looked at her with those brown and gold eyes. Are you my aunt now? If you'll have me. Lily considered this seriously. Will you try to be nice? Victoria almost laughed. Almost. I'll try. That's what Mommy always said. Trying is the first step. Lily reached out and took Victoria's hand. Welcome to our family, Aunt Victoria. Victoria broke. She pulled Lily into her arms and sobbed great racking sobs that shook her whole body. 8 years of guilt and grief and loneliness pouring out in a flood of tears. Marcus watched his own eyes wet as the Ice Queen of Sterling Industries fell apart, holding the niece she'd never known existed. And somewhere, somehow, he could have sworn he heard Elena laughing. You did it, Marcus. You kept your promise. Lawrence cleared his throat softly, but neither Victoria nor Lily moved. They stayed locked in that embrace, the billionaire CEO and the 8-year-old girl, 2 strangers connected by blood and grief, and the ghost of a man they'd both lost. Marcus watched them with a strange mixture of emotions. Relief, fear, hope. And underneath it all, the gnawing worry that had kept him awake for 3 nights. "There's more," Lawrence said quietly. The DNA analysis confirmed something else. Victoria pulled back from Lily, wiping her eyes. "The heart condition." "Yes. Lily has the same genetic marker that David had. The same one you have." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "How serious is it?" "Manageable with proper care, regular monitoring, medication, annual checkups with a cardiologist." Lawrence's voice was gentle but clinical. "Without treatment, however." "What happens without treatment?" Marcus demanded. "The condition can cause sudden cardiac events, especially during periods of physical stress or extreme emotion." Lawrence paused. David knew about his condition. He was on medication, but the crash happened so fast that it didn't matter. Victoria made a sound of pain. "Elena knew. That's why she worked so hard. She knew Lily might need expensive medical care, and she couldn't afford it." "She never told me." Marcus's voice cracked. 8 years of marriage, and she never told me our daughter had a heart condition. She probably couldn't bear to. Victoria's voice was hollow. "Elena knew that without money, without insurance, there was nothing you could do. Telling you would only have made you both suffer more." Marcus looked at Lily, who was watching the adults with worried eyes. "Daddy, am I sick?" He knelt down and took her hands. "You have something in your heart that needs watching, sweetheart. Like a little engine that sometimes runs too fast. But the doctors can help you. They can make sure your engine runs just right." "Will I be okay?" "You're going to be fine, I promise." "Cross your heart." Marcus made an X over his chest. "Cross my heart." Lily nodded solemnly, accepting his word as gospel. Because that's what children do. They trust their parents completely, absolutely, without question. And Marcus would die before he broke that trust. "Lawrence, what needs to happen?" Victoria's voice had shifted. The CEO was back, the woman who built empires and solved problems. "What medical care does Lily need, and how quickly can we arrange it?" "I've already contacted the best pediatric cardiologist in New York. She can see Lily tomorrow morning." "Tomorrow? Not today." "Doctor, Chen is in surgery until this evening. Tomorrow morning is the earliest available." Victoria's jaw tightened. "Fine. Tomorrow. And the inheritance. What's the timeline?" "The paperwork will take several weeks. There are trust documents to prepare, guardianship arrangements to formalize, tax implications to address." Lawrence pulled more papers from his briefcase. "Given Lily's age, she can't control the inheritance until she's 25. We'll need to appoint a trustee to manage the estate." "I'll do it." Victoria said it without hesitation. "I'll be her trustee." Marcus stood slowly. "Hold on. Don't I get a say in this?" "Of course you do. But nothing. Lily is my daughter. I've raised her for 6 years. I'm not going to hand control of her inheritance to someone I met 3 days ago." Victoria's eyes flashed. "I'm her aunt. Her blood relative. I have more right than the man who changed her diapers, who taught her to walk, who held her when she cried and read her stories every night." Marcus stepped closer. "Blood doesn't make you family, Ms. Sterling. Love does. And you don't get to waltz in here and take over because the DNA test came back positive." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Lawrence stepped between them. "Perhaps we can discuss this later, when emotions aren't running so high." "My emotions are fine." Marcus's voice was steel. "I just want to be clear about something. Lily is my daughter, not Victoria's, not the Sterling family's. Mine. Whatever arrangements we make, that doesn't change." Victoria's face was unreadable. "No one is trying to take her from you." "Really? Because that's exactly what it sounds like." "I was suggesting a trusteeship, not custody. The money would be managed professionally until Lily comes of age. That's standard practice for inheritances of this size. And who decides how the money is spent in the meantime? Who decides what school she goes to? What medical care she receives? What opportunities she has access to? We would discuss those decisions together." "Together?" Marcus laughed bitterly. 3 days ago you called me homeless. You looked at my daughter like she was garbage. Now you want to make decisions together? I apologized for that. Apologies don't erase contempt, Ms. Sterling. They don't erase 8 years of your family ignoring a child who needed help. I didn't know she existed. You didn't want to know. Marcus's voice rose. You said it yourself. After David died, after Elena disappeared, you were relieved. You didn't look because you didn't want to find anything that might complicate your perfect Sterling legacy. Victoria recoiled like he'd slapped her. Lily started crying. The sound cut through the argument like a knife. Both adults turned to see her standing there, tears streaming down her face, her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. Stop fighting. Her voice was small and scared. Please stop fighting. Mommy and Daddy used to fight before Mommy got sick, and then she got really tired and really sad, and then she died. I don't want anyone else to die. Marcus was at her side in an instant, pulling her into his arms. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm sorry. No one's going to die. Promise? I promise. Victoria stood frozen, watching the exchange with something broken in her eyes. I'm sorry too, Lily. I didn't mean to scare you. Are you and Daddy going to be friends? The question hung in the air. Marcus looked at Victoria over Lily's head. Their eyes met. An entire conversation passed in that silence, accusations and apologies, anger and understanding, the beginning of something that might eventually become respect. We're going to try, Marcus said finally. That's all anyone can do. Trying is the first step, Lily whispered. That's what Mommy always said. Victoria's composure cracked again. Your mother was very wise. She was the best mommy in the whole world. Lily wiped her eyes. I miss her so much. I know you do, sweetheart. Victoria's voice was thick. I miss my brother too. Maybe we can miss them together. Lily considered this. Then she reached out one small hand toward Victoria. Victoria took it. And in that moment, holding hands across a gulf of grief and loss and wasted years, something shifted. Something healed just a little. Lawrence cleared his throat. Perhaps we should table the trusteeship discussion for now. There are more immediate concerns. Like what? Marcus asked. Before Lawrence could answer, his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his face went white. What is it? Victoria demanded. We have a problem. Lawrence turned the phone so they could see. A big problem. The headline screamed across the screen. Sterling family scandal. Secret love child. Claims $450 million inheritance. Marcus felt his blood run cold. How did they find out? Victoria grabbed the phone, scrolling rapidly. The DNA test was confidential. The only people who knew were us and the lab. Someone at the lab must have talked. Lawrence was already making calls. Or someone in the building overheard something. It doesn't matter how. What matters is that it's out there. What are they saying? Marcus asked, dreading the answer. Victoria's face twisted with disgust. They're calling Elena a gold digger, saying she hid Lily to extort money from the family, saying you're running a scam to steal the Sterling fortune. That's insane. We have DNA proof. The media doesn't care about proof. They care about headlines. And poor con man tricks billionaire family is a better headline than legitimate heir claims rightful inheritance. Marcus took the phone from her. The article was worse than he'd imagined. Sources close to the Sterling family say the alleged heir appeared at company headquarters last week demanding money and making wild claims about a secret marriage. The child's mother, Elena Cole, worked as a cleaning woman before her death 6 months ago. Critics are questioning how a woman of such modest means could have married into one of America's wealthiest families without anyone knowing. This has all the hallmarks of a classic inheritance scam, said one legal expert who asked not to be named. The mother conveniently dies before anyone can question her story. The child is too young to be cross-examined effectively, and the letter allegedly proving the connection was hidden for 8 years. Red flags everywhere. Marcus wanted to throw the phone against the wall. Elena wasn't a con artist. She was the most honest person I ever knew. I know. Victoria's voice was surprisingly gentle. But the media doesn't know that, and right now they're destroying her reputation. We have to stop them. How we can't sue every news outlet in America. Then we tell the truth. We hold a press conference. We show them the DNA results, the letter, everything. Victoria hesitated. That's risky. Once you go public, there's no going back. Lily's life will never be normal again. Her life was never going to be normal. Marcus looked at his daughter, who was watching the adults with worried eyes. She just inherited $450 million. That's not normal. But I won't let them destroy Elena's memory. I won't let them call her mother a criminal. Victoria studied him for a long moment. You really loved her, didn't you, Elena? More than anything in the world, except Lily. David loved her too. I never understood why she was so different from the women our family approved of. But he loved her completely, absolutely, without reservation. Victoria's voice softened. Maybe I was jealous. Maybe that's why I was so cruel. Jealous. David found something real, something true. A love that didn't care about money or status or family expectations. Victoria's eyes were distant. I never had that. I had arranged introductions to suitable men from suitable families. I had relationships that looked good in society pages. But I never had what David and Elena had. Marcus didn't know what to say. I'll arrange the press conference. Victoria's CEO voice was back, but warmer now. Tomorrow afternoon. We'll do it here in the building with full documentation. DNA results, the original letter, photographs of David and Elena together. Everything. And what about the board? Lawrence interjected. They're not going to be happy about this. Victoria's expression hardened. The board doesn't get a vote. Victoria, they're already asking questions. Harold called me this morning demanding to know what's going on. The stock price dropped 3% when the news broke. Let it drop. They'll want to fight the inheritance. They'll argue that the letter is invalid, that the marriage wasn't properly registered, that... Let them argue. Victoria turned to face Lawrence fully. Lily is David's daughter. The DNA proves it. The letter proves it. And I will not let the board turn my brother's child into a liability to be managed. Lawrence held up his hands. I'm on your side, Victoria. I'm just warning you about what's coming. I know what's coming. Victoria's voice was ice. Harold and his cronies will try to protect the stock price. They'll try to minimize the scandal. They'll throw Elena's memory under the bus and make Lily look like a problem to be solved. She paused. They'll expect me to agree with them, because that's what the old Victoria would have done. And the new Victoria is going to tell them exactly where they can shove their stock price. Despite everything, Marcus almost smiled. The board meeting was scheduled for 6 o'clock that evening. Victoria insisted that Marcus and Lily wait in her office, protected from the media circus that had descended on the building. Reporters crowded the lobby. Camera crews blocked the sidewalk. Every major news network had sent someone to cover the story. Sterling Secret Child live coverage scrolled across screens throughout the city. Marcus watched the chaos from Victoria's window while Lily drew pictures at the conference table. She'd asked for paper and crayons, and Margaret, Victoria's assistant, a kind woman who'd apparently known David, had found both within minutes. What are you drawing, sweetheart? Our family. Lily held up the paper. See, that's you, and that's me, and that's Mommy in heaven with wings, and that's Daddy David also in heaven, and that's Aunt Victoria. Marcus looked at the stick figures. Lily had given everyone smiles except Elena and David, who had halos. It's beautiful, baby. I'm going to give it to Aunt Victoria to make her feel better. I think she'd like that. The door opened. Lawrence entered, his face grim. The board meeting is starting. Victoria wanted you to know. How bad is it going to be? Lawrence hesitated. Harold Mitchell has been building a coalition. He has 6 votes already. That's enough to override Victoria on most decisions. What kind of decisions? They want to contest the inheritance. Claim the letter is fraudulent. Demand additional DNA testing from an independent lab. Delay the transfer of assets for as long as possible. Lawrence paused. They're also discussing whether to remove Victoria as CEO. Can they do that? If they have enough votes. Victoria controls 30% of the company. David's shares now. Lily's shares are 40%. If the board can delay Lily's inheritance long enough, they can install a friendly trustee who'll vote those shares against Victoria. So they're not just trying to steal from Lily, they're trying to use her inheritance as a weapon. Corporate politics. Lawrence's voice was bitter. It's always about power. Marcus looked at Lily, still drawing peacefully, unaware of the war being fought over her future. Is there anything I can do? Just be ready. If the board succeeds, this could get very ugly very fast. The boardroom was silent when Victoria entered. 12 chairs around a mahogany table. 12 of the most powerful people in American business, each one watching her with expressions ranging from skeptical to openly hostile. Harold Mitchell sat at the head of the table, even though that seat traditionally belonged to the CEO. He was 63, silver-haired, and had been trying to take control of Sterling Industries for 15 years. Today, he thought he finally had his chance. Victoria, his voice was smooth. Thank you for joining us. It's my company, Harold. I don't need thanks for attending my own board meeting. Your company? Harold's eyebrows rose. Interesting choice of words given the circumstances. Victoria took her seat, her usual seat, not the head of the table. She wouldn't give Harold the satisfaction of fighting over furniture. I assume you've all seen the news. Murmurs around the table, heads nodding. Then you know why we're here. My brother David had a daughter. Her name is Lily. She's 8 years old, and she's entitled to his 40% share of this company. Allegedly entitled. Harold's voice was sharp. We've only seen a preliminary DNA test from a single lab. Hardly conclusive. 99.9% certainty, Harold. That's not preliminary. That's fact. Labs make mistakes. Tests can be manipulated. For an inheritance of this magnitude, we should require independent verification. Fine. Order whatever tests you want. The results will be the same. Harold smiled thinly. And while we wait for those results, the shares remain in trust, under the control of this board. Under the control of a trustee appointed by this board. There's a difference. A minor distinction. Not to me. Victoria leaned forward. I know what you're doing, Harold. You want to delay the inheritance long enough to appoint a trustee who'll vote those shares the way you want. You're trying to use my niece as a pawn in your little power grab. I'm trying to protect the company. Harold's voice hardened. This scandal has already cost us 3% of our stock price. If we don't handle it carefully, it could cost us much more. Handle it? You mean bury it. I mean contain it. The longer this circus continues, the more damage it does. Harold looked around the table, playing to his audience. We need to take control of the narrative. Distance the company from the allegations. Make it clear that Sterling Industries is not responsible for whatever arrangement David may or may not have made 8 years ago. Arrangement. Victoria's voice was dangerous. David was married. He had a daughter. That's not an arrangement. That's a family. A family no one knew about. A family that conveniently appeared the moment money was on the table. A family represented by a man who was living in his car. Harold's lip curled. Forgive me if I'm skeptical. Marcus Cole is a good man. Marcus Cole is a drifter who saw an opportunity. Marcus Cole raised my brother's daughter for 6 years without asking for a single penny. He worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over her head. He loved her like his own. How touching. Harold's voice dripped sarcasm. And now he stands to become one of the wealthiest men in America by controlling his stepdaughter's inheritance. What a coincidence. Victoria slammed her hand on the table. Everyone jumped. Let me make something clear. Her voice was cold fury. Elena Cole was David's wife. Lily Cole is David's daughter. I've seen the evidence. I've seen the DNA results. I've seen Lily's eyes, my brother's eyes looking back at me. This is not a scam. This is not a conspiracy. This is a child who lost her mother and deserves what's rightfully hers. Victoria. I'm not finished. She stood commanding the room. You want to talk about protecting the company, fine. Let's talk about what happens if we fight this inheritance. Let's talk about the headlines, billionaire family denies orphan her birthright. Let's talk about the lawsuits, the depositions, the media coverage that will drag on for years. Let's talk about what happens when the public finds out we tried to steal from an 8-year-old girl. Harold's face reddened. We're not stealing. You're proposing to delay her inheritance indefinitely while you investigate. You're proposing to appoint a trustee who'll vote her shares against her own interests. You're proposing to drag Elena's name through the mud so you can protect your precious stock price. Victoria's voice rose. That's not protection, Harold. That's theft with lawyers. The board has a fiduciary responsibility. The board has a responsibility to do what's right. Victoria looked at each member in turn. Some of you knew David. Some of you came to his funeral. You stood there and said what a tragedy it was that he died so young, that he never got to live his life, have a family, become a father. She paused, letting the words sink in. Well, he did have a family. He did become a father, and his daughter is downstairs right now drawing pictures while the adults decide whether she deserves what her father left her. The room was silent. Elena Cole worked herself to death. Victoria's voice cracked, but she pushed through. She was 36 years old. She worked 3 jobs cleaning offices, doing laundry, babysitting to keep her daughter fed and housed. She died of exhaustion because she was too proud to ask for help from people she knew would reject her. Harold opened his mouth. Don't. Victoria's voice was sharp. Don't you dare say she should have come to us. We gave her every reason to believe we'd treat her exactly the way you're treating her now, like a criminal, like a gold digger, like nothing. We failed her. We failed David. And I will not fail their daughter. Victoria, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. I'm being more reasonable than any of you deserve. She gathered her papers. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to honor my brother's inheritance. We're going to welcome his daughter into this family. And we're going to hold a press conference tomorrow where we tell the truth about Elena Cole, that she was a good woman who loved her husband and sacrificed everything for her child. The board hasn't voted. The board doesn't get to vote on basic human decency. Victoria headed for the door. If you want to remove me as CEO, Harold, go ahead and try. But know this, I control 30% of this company. Lily will soon control 40%. That's 70% against whatever coalition you can cobble together. She paused at the door. Oh, and Harold, if I hear one more word about Elena Cole being a gold digger, I'll release the private investigator's report I commissioned this afternoon. The one that shows how much money David transferred to offshore accounts in the months before his death. Accounts that your son-in-law has been quietly accessing for the past 8 years. Harold's face went white. I thought so. Victoria smiled coldly. Shall we adjourn? The meeting ended. Victoria found Marcus and Lily still in her office. Lily had fallen asleep on the couch clutching her rabbit. Marcus sat beside her, watching over her like a guardian angel. How did it go? He asked quietly. About as well as expected. Victoria sank into a chair, exhaustion finally showing on her face. Harold tried to delay the inheritance. I shut him down. How? Let's just say I reminded him that glass houses and stones don't mix. She looked at Lily's sleeping form. The press conference is confirmed for tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock. Are you ready? No. but I'll be ready by tomorrow." Victoria nodded. "Marcus, I owe you an apology. A real one, not the half-hearted thing I said in the lobby." "You've already apologized." "Not enough. Not for what I was about to do." She leaned forward. When Harold was talking about trustees and independent tests and containing the narrative, part of me wanted to agree. Part of me wanted to make this all go away quietly. Protect the company, protect my position, let someone else deal with the complications. But you didn't. No. Because I looked at that little girl and I saw David's eyes, and I finally knew what kind of person I'd become. The kind of person Elena was right to fear. The kind of person who measures worth in dollars and status instead of love and sacrifice. Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Elena never hated your family. She was just afraid. She had every reason to be afraid. We gave her every reason." Victoria's voice broke. "I gave her every reason." "But you're trying to be different now." "Trying." Victoria laughed bitterly. "Lily said that's the first step. She's pretty smart for 8. She's remarkable." Victoria looked at the sleeping child with something like wonder. She's been through so much, losing her mother, living in a car, facing strangers who looked at her like garbage, and she still has this light, this kindness, this ability to see good in people who don't deserve it. She gets that from Elena. And from you. Victoria met his eyes. "Elena raised her for 2 years before you came along. But you raised her for 6. You shaped her. That kindness, that strength. That's you, Marcus." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "I just did what any father would do." "No, you did what a good father would do. There's a difference." Victoria stood slowly. "I should go. The press conference won't plan itself, and I have a lot of damage control to manage before tomorrow." "Victoria." She turned. "Thank you. For standing up for Lily. For standing up for Elena. I know it cost you." "It was the right thing to do." Victoria's voice was quiet. "Maybe for the first time in my life." She left. Marcus looked at Lily, still sleeping peacefully, unaware of the battles being fought over her future. "We're going to be okay, sweetheart." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Mommy would be so proud of you, so proud of both of us." Lily stirred slightly, clutching her rabbit tighter. Outside the window, the city lights glittered like scattered diamonds. Tomorrow, they would face the cameras. Tomorrow, they would tell Elena's story to the world. Tomorrow, everything would change again. But tonight, in this quiet office high above Manhattan, a father watched over his daughter, and that was enough. That was everything. The morning of the press conference, Marcus woke before dawn. He lay in the hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Lily's soft breathing beside him. In a few hours, he would stand in front of cameras and tell the world about Elena, about the woman she really was, about the life she lived and the death she died. He wasn't ready. He would never be ready. But he would do it anyway, because that's what Elena would have wanted. Because Lily deserved to grow up knowing her mother was a hero, not a headline. "Daddy?" Lily's voice was sleepy, muffled by her pillow. "I'm here, sweetheart." "Is it time?" "Not yet. Go back to sleep." "I can't sleep. My tummy feels funny." Marcus pulled her close. "Mine too." "Are you scared about the TV people?" "A little." "Mommy always said being scared means you're about to do something brave." Lily yawned. "Are we being brave today?" "The bravest." "Good, because I want everyone to know Mommy wasn't a bad person. The TV people said mean things about her. I heard Margaret talking about it." Marcus's heart clenched. He'd tried to shield Lily from the coverage, but children hear things. Children always hear things. "What did you hear, baby?" "They said Mommy was a gold digger." "What's a gold digger?" "It's someone who pretends to love another person just to get their money." "But Mommy didn't do that. Mommy loved Daddy David for real." "I know she did." "Then why are they lying?" Marcus didn't have an answer. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that the world is full of people who tear others down for entertainment, that media empires are built on scandal and suffering, that truth matters less than clicks? Sometimes people say things without knowing all the facts, he said finally. That's why we're doing the press conference, to tell them the real story. And then they'll stop being mean. I hope so, sweetheart. I really hope so. Victoria arrived at the hotel at 10 o'clock, looking like she hadn't slept at all. Dark circles under her eyes, tension in every line of her body. But her voice was steady when she spoke. The press conference is set up. Lawrence has prepared documentation packets for every reporter, DNA results, the original letter, photographs, marriage certificate. Everything is verified and authenticated. Marriage certificate. Marcus frowned. I didn't know you had that. I found it this morning, in David's things. Victoria's voice softened. He kept everything, Marcus. Letters, photos, a journal. I spent all night going through boxes I hadn't opened since he died. What did you find? Victoria pulled a worn leather journal from her bag. This. Marcus took it carefully. The pages were yellowed, the handwriting cramped but readable. March 15th. Victoria said quietly. Read that entry. Marcus found the page. Today, I married the woman I love. Elena Maria Santos. She wore a white dress she bought at a thrift store, and she was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Father would disown me if he knew. Victoria would lecture me about responsibility. But none of that matters. Elena matters. Our future matters. And someday when we have children, I'll tell them that their mother was the bravest person I ever met. A woman who loved me without caring about my money, my name, or my family's expectations. I am the luckiest man alive. Marcus couldn't speak. The words blurred as tears filled his eyes. There's more. Victoria took the journal gently. October 2nd, the day before the crash. She read aloud. Elena told me she's late. She thinks she might be pregnant. I've never been so happy and so terrified at the same time. I want to tell everyone, Father, Victoria, the whole world. But Elena is scared. She says my family will think she trapped me. She doesn't understand that I don't care what they think. I only care about her, about our baby, about the life we're going to build together. Tomorrow I'm flying to Chicago for business, but when I get back, we're going to the doctor. We're going to find out for sure. And if it's true, when it's true, I'm going to be the best father in the world. I'm going to give my child everything I never had: unconditional love, acceptance, freedom to be whoever they want to be. I can't wait to meet them. Victoria's voice broke on the last sentence. He never got to meet her. Marcus's voice was raw. He never knew. He knew she was loved. Victoria wiped her eyes. That's something. That has to be something. They stood in silence, bound by grief and the ghost of a man who had died with so much love still to give. I want to read this at the press conference, Marcus said finally. The October 2nd entry. I want people to hear David's words, to understand what he and Elena had. Are you sure? People believe what they see and hear. They've seen headlines calling Elena a gold digger. They need to hear David calling her the bravest person he ever met. Victoria nodded slowly. I'll make copies for the press packets. Lily appeared in the doorway, dressed in the new clothes Victoria had bought her, a simple blue dress that matched her eyes. Her hair was brushed, her face scrubbed clean, her stuffed rabbit clutched under one arm. I'm ready, she announced. Victoria knelt down to her level. Are you sure you want to do this, Lily? You don't have to. You can wait here with Margaret. I want to come. Mommy would want me to be brave. Your mommy would be so proud of you. I know. Lily's voice was matter of fact. She told me every day. She said I was her greatest adventure. Victoria's composure cracked. She pulled Lily into a fierce hug, holding her like she was precious beyond measure. Because she was. The conference room was packed beyond capacity. 300 reporters, 50 camera crews, live feeds to every major news network in the country. The story of the Sterling secret child had captured the nation's attention, and everyone wanted a front-row seat to whatever happened next. Marcus stood behind the curtain, watching the chaos, trying to remember how to breathe. "You don't have to do this." Victoria appeared beside him. "I can make a statement. Read from David's journal. Handle the questions." "No." Marcus straightened his tie, borrowed from Lawrence, the nicest thing he'd ever worn. "Elena deserves to have her story told by someone who loved her. Not a press release, not a corporate statement. The truth from someone who knows it." "You're a good man, Marcus Cole." "I'm a scared man, but I'm doing it anyway." Victoria almost smiled. "That's what makes you good." Lawrence signaled from the podium. "We're ready." Marcus took Lily's hand. "Remember what we talked about. Stay close to you. Don't talk to strangers. If I get scared, squeeze your hand twice." "That's my girl." They walked out together. The room erupted. Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters shouted questions over each other. The noise was overwhelming, a wall of sound that hit Marcus like a physical force. But he kept walking, one foot in front of the other, toward the podium, toward the truth. Victoria reached the microphone first. "Thank you all for coming." Her voice cut through the chaos, commanding silence. "I'm Victoria Sterling, CEO of Sterling Industries. Before we begin, I want to make something clear. This is not a corporate event. This is not about stock prices or market shares or business strategy. This is about family, my family, and the truth that should have been told 8 years ago." The room quieted. "My brother David died on October 3rd, 8 years ago. He was 31 years old. He was brilliant, kind, passionate, and stubborn. He was also secretly married to a woman named Elena Santos, and he was about to become a father." Victoria paused. "I didn't know any of this until 3 days ago. I didn't know because I hadn't looked. Because I hadn't wanted to look. Because I had convinced myself that Elena was beneath our family, and her disappearance after David's death was a relief rather than a tragedy." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "I was wrong." Victoria's voice was steady but heavy with emotion. "I was cruel, prejudiced, and blind. And because of my failures, my family's failures. A good woman spent 8 years raising her daughter alone, working herself to death, too afraid to ask for help from people she knew would reject her." She stepped back from the microphone. "This is Marcus Cole. He was Elena's husband. He raised Lily as his own daughter for 6 years. He has agreed to share Elena's story with you today. I ask that you listen with open hearts and minds." Marcus approached the podium on legs that felt like rubber. 300 faces stared at him. Millions more watched through cameras. The weight of their attention pressed down on him like a physical force. But he thought of Elena, of her smile, her laugh, the way she sang off-key, while cooking, the way she held Lily like she was the most precious thing in the universe. And he found his voice. "My name is Marcus Cole. 3 years ago, I married a woman named Elena. She was a widow with a 2-year-old daughter. She worked as a cleaning woman at the office building where I worked as a janitor." He paused. "That's how we met. 2 people mopping floors at midnight, talking to pass the time. I thought she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. Not because of how she looked, but because of how she made me feel. Like I mattered. Like I was worth something." The room was absolutely silent. "Elena didn't tell me about David Sterling until we'd been dating for 6 months. She was terrified I'd see her differently as a gold digger, as someone who'd trapped a rich man. She made me promise never to tell anyone about Lily's real father. She made me swear that if anything happened to her, I'd keep Lily safe from the Sterling family." He looked at Victoria. "I understand why now." Elena had met Victoria once at a party before David's death. Victoria told her she wasn't good enough for David, that she should leave before she embarrassed herself, that people like Elena didn't belong in their world. Victoria flinched visibly. "So Elena ran." She found out she was pregnant 2 weeks after David's crash, and she ran. She changed her name back to Cole, her maiden name. She moved to a new city. She started over. Alone. Terrified. Pregnant with a dead man's child. Marcus's voice cracked, but he pushed through. I've read the articles you've written. I've seen the headlines. Gold digger. Scam artist. Con woman. Let me tell you about the Elena Cole I knew. He pulled a worn photograph from his pocket. Elena holding baby Lily, both of them laughing at something off camera. Elena worked 3 jobs. She woke up at 4 a.m. to do laundry services. She cleaned office buildings from 6 p.m. to midnight. She babysat on weekends. 70-80 hours a week every week for years. Not because she was lazy, not because she was unmotivated, because that's what it takes to survive when you're poor in America. He held up the photograph. This is Elena with Lily when Lily was 1 year old. Look at them. Look at Elena's face. Does that look like a gold digger to you? Does that look like someone who cared about money? The camera crews zoomed in on the image. Elena could have claimed Lily's inheritance at any time. She had the same letter I brought to Sterling Industries last week. She could have walked into that building 8 years ago and demanded $450 million. But she didn't. His voice rose. She didn't, because she knew how she would be treated. She knew they would call her names, drag her through the mud, make her feel worthless. So instead of fighting for what her daughter deserved, she worked herself to death. Tears streamed down his face, but he didn't wipe them away. Elena died 6 months ago. She was 36 years old. Her heart just stopped. The doctors said it was exhaustion, years of overwork, too little sleep, too much stress. She collapsed in our kitchen. I held her hand while we waited for the ambulance. Her last words to me were, "Take care of Lily. Tell her I love her. Give her the letter." The room was weeping. Reporters, camera operators, even the security guards, everyone was crying. Elena's last act on this earth was making sure her daughter had a chance at a better life. Not for herself. She knew she was dying. She knew she wouldn't be there to see it. But she wanted Lily to have options. Opportunities. The things Elena could never afford to give her. Marcus pulled out David's journal. David Sterling wrote this the day before he died. Victoria found it last night. I want to read it to you. He opened to the marked page. Elena told me she's late. She thinks she might be pregnant. I've never been so happy and so terrified at the same time. I want to tell everyone, Father Victoria, the whole world. But Elena is scared. She says my family will think she trapped me. She doesn't understand that I don't care what they think. I only care about her, about our baby, about the life we're going to build together. Marcus's voice broke. Tomorrow, I'm flying to Chicago for business, but when I get back, we're going to the doctor. We're going to find out for sure. And if it's true when it's true, I'm going to be the best father in the world. I'm going to give my child everything I never had: unconditional love, acceptance, freedom to be whoever they want to be. I can't wait to meet them. He closed the journal. David Sterling never got to meet his daughter. He never knew Elena was pregnant. He died thinking they had forever. And Elena spent 8 years honoring his memory, raising their daughter, protecting her, loving her enough for 2 parents. Marcus looked directly into the cameras. So before you write another headline calling Elena Cole a gold digger, ask yourself this: would a gold digger work 3 jobs instead of claiming millions? Would a con artist raise a child alone for 8 years when she could have demanded help? Would a scam artist die at 36 from exhaustion rather than ask the people who'd rejected her for a single penny? He stepped back from the podium. Elena Cole was not a gold digger. She was a hero. She was a mother who sacrificed everything for her child, and she deserved better than the way this world treated her. The silence lasted 10 seconds. Then someone started clapping. 1 person, then 10, then 100. The room rose to its feet, applauding, weeping, transformed. Victoria approached the microphone again, tears streaming down her face. I owe Elena Cole an apology I can never make. I owe her daughter a lifetime of love I'm only now learning to give." She paused. "But I can do something to honor Elena's memory, to make sure her sacrifice wasn't meaningless." She pulled out a document. "I'm announcing the creation of the Elena Cole Foundation for Working Families. The foundation will provide child care assistance, job training, medical coverage, and emergency housing for single parents struggling to survive. The initial endowment will be $200 million from Sterling Industries." Gasps rippled through the room. Additionally, Lily Cole will inherit her father's 40% share of Sterling Industries valued at approximately $450 million. She has asked through her father, Marcus, that the majority of this inheritance be used to help families like hers. Families who work hard and still struggle. Families who deserve better than what this country gives them. Victoria looked at Lily, who was holding Marcus's hand with fierce determination. This 8-year-old girl who has lost her mother, who was living in a car 2 weeks ago, who has every reason to be bitter and angry and selfish. This child wants to help others. That's Elena Cole's legacy. That's the woman you called a gold digger. She turned back to the cameras. The Elena Cole Foundation will launch next month. Every penny will go to families in need. No administrative overhead. No executive salaries. Just help for people who need it. "What about Lily's medical care?" a reporter shouted. "The heart condition." Victoria nodded. "Lily has a genetic heart condition that requires ongoing treatment. Her medical care will be funded separately from the foundation. She will have access to the best doctors in the world. Her health is our top priority." "Mr. Cole." Another reporter. "What happens now? Where will you and Lily live?" Marcus stepped forward. "We haven't figured out all the details yet. But wherever we live, it'll be together. I'm Lily's father. That doesn't change because of DNA results or inheritance money." "Victoria, will you be part of Lily's life?" Victoria looked at Lily, who nodded encouragingly. "If she'll have me. I've missed 8 years of her life because of my own prejudice. I'd like the chance to make up for that. To be the aunt David would have wanted me to be." "Lily," a reporter called out. "Do you have anything to say?" Marcus tensed. They hadn't planned for this. Lily wasn't supposed to speak. But Lily squeezed his hand twice, not scared, just asking permission, and stepped toward the microphone. The room went absolutely silent. "Hi." Her voice was small, but steady. "I'm Lily. I'm 8 years old. My mommy died, and I miss her every day." Marcus felt his heart shatter. "Mommy worked really hard. She was always tired, but she always read me stories at night. She made funny voices for all the characters. She said I was her greatest adventure." Lily looked at the cameras. "Mommy wasn't a bad person. She was the best mommy in the whole world. She just didn't have enough help. That's why I want to help other families. So other mommies don't get too tired. So other kids don't have to miss their mommies like I miss mine." She stepped back and Marcus pulled her into his arms. The room exploded with applause. Reporters were openly sobbing. Camera operators had to steady their equipment with shaking hands. Even the most hardened journalists looked moved. And in that moment, Elena Cole, cleaning woman's single mother hero, was finally seen for who she really was. The press conference lasted another hour. Questions about logistics, timelines, legal arrangements. Marcus let Lawrence and Victoria handle most of it, keeping Lily close, shielding her from the chaos. Finally, it was over. They retreated to Victoria's office, exhausted and emotionally drained. Lily fell asleep on the couch within minutes, clutching her rabbit. "You did good." Victoria handed Marcus a glass of water. "Better than good. You were incredible." "I just told the truth." "Sometimes the truth is the hardest thing to tell." Victoria sat heavily in her chair. "The foundation announcement is going viral. We've already received $6 million in donations." $6 million? And counting. Apparently, Elena's story resonated with people. Victoria's voice was quiet. "A lot of people have mothers like Elena, fathers like you, people who work themselves to death and still can't make ends meet. The system is broken." Yes, but maybe we can fix a small piece of it. Victoria looked at Lily's sleeping form. She's remarkable, Marcus. The way she spoke about Elena, the way she wants to help others despite everything she's been through. She gets that from Elena. She gets it from both of you. Marcus was quiet for a moment. What happens now? With the inheritance, the guardianship, all of it. Lawrence is working on the paperwork. You'll remain Lily's primary guardian, of course. The inheritance will be held in trust until she's 25, with you as the trustee. Me, I thought you wanted to be trustee. I did, but I was wrong. Victoria met his eyes. You've been her father for 6 years. You know her better than anyone. You'll make decisions in her best interest, not the company's. And the board can go to hell. Victoria almost smiled. Harold tried to rally opposition this morning. He failed, spectacularly. Turns out most people aren't comfortable trying to steal from an orphan whose mother worked herself to death. What about you and Lily? What kind of relationship do you want? Victoria was quiet for a long moment. I want to be her aunt. A real aunt. Birthday parties and holiday dinners and phone calls just to say hello. I want to teach her things about business, about the family history, about David. Her voice softened. I want to tell her stories about her father. The good ones. The ones that show who he really was before our family's expectations crushed him. Elena would have wanted that. She never wanted Lily to grow up without knowing David's side of the family. She just wanted Lily to be safe. She's safe now. I promise you, Marcus. I will never let anyone hurt that child. Not the board, not the media, not anyone. Marcus studied Victoria for a long moment. The woman who had called him homeless, who had looked at Lily like she was garbage, who had spent 52 years building walls around her heart. That woman was still there somewhere. But something had shifted. Something had cracked open. Elena believed people could change, Marcus said finally. She always saw the best in everyone, even when they didn't deserve it. She sounds extraordinary. She was. God, she was. Marcus's voice cracked. I miss her every day. Every single day. Tell me about her. Not the sad parts, the good parts. So Marcus talked. He told Victoria about Elena's laugh, loud and unself-conscious, the kind that made everyone around her smile. About how she sang off-key while cooking and didn't care who heard. About the bedtime stories she invented when they couldn't afford books. About the way she danced in the kitchen with Lily, twirling her around until they were both dizzy and giggling. He told her about their wedding, a courthouse ceremony with 2 strangers as witnesses, followed by dinner at a diner because that's all they could afford. How Elena had worn a second-hand dress and called herself the luckiest woman in the world. He told her about the hard times, the months when they couldn't make rent, the winters, when they had to choose between heat and food, the nights when Elena came home so exhausted she could barely stand, but still found energy to tuck Lily in. And he told her about Elena's dreams, the house she wanted to buy someday, the education she wanted for Lily, the life she hoped they'd build together. She never got any of it, Marcus said, his voice raw. She never got the house, or the security, or the chance to see Lily grow up. She died in a kitchen that wasn't even ours, in an apartment we were about to be evicted from. Victoria was crying silently. But she died knowing Lily was loved. She died knowing I would take care of her. And that was enough for Elena. Marcus wiped his eyes. She always said love was the only thing that really mattered. Money comes and goes. Jobs come and go. But love, real love, that's forever. She was right. Yeah, she usually was. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Lily sleep. I have something for you. Victoria stood and walked to her desk. She opened a drawer and pulled out a small velvet box. I found this in David's things. He'd hidden it carefully. I think he was saving it for Elena. She handed the box to Marcus. Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant, beautiful. A diamond that caught the light and scattered rainbows across the room. He bought this the day before he died, Victoria said quietly. He was planning to propose to Elena when he got back from his trip. He told his assistant he'd found the woman he wanted to spend forever with, and he didn't care what anyone thought. Marcus stared at the ring. "Elena never knew," he whispered. "No, she never knew he was going to propose. She never knew how much he loved her." Victoria's voice broke. "But maybe Lily should know. Maybe she should have this ring someday when she's older. Proof that her father loved her mother completely, that she wasn't a mistake or a scandal, that she was wanted desperately, completely wanted." Marcus closed the box carefully. "I'll keep it safe, for when she's ready." "Thank you." They looked at each other, the billionaire CEO and the former janitor, the ice queen and the single father, and something passed between them. Understanding. Respect. The beginning of something that might eventually become family. "Marcus." Victoria's voice was hesitant. "I know I don't deserve it, but would you and Lily consider staying here in New York near me?" "Why?" "Because I've spent my whole life building empires and accumulating wealth, and I have nothing that matters. No family, no children, no one who calls me on birthdays just to say hello." She paused. "I'd like the chance to change that, to be part of Lily's life, part of your lives." Marcus thought about Elena, about what she would want. "Give Lily a family, Marcus. The kind of family I could never give her." "We'll stay," he said finally. "But I have conditions." "Name them." "First, Lily's well-being comes before everything, before the company, before the inheritance, before any of it." "Agreed." "Second, I remain her father, in every way that counts. You're her aunt, not her parent. You don't make decisions about her life without consulting me first." "Agreed." "Third, Elena's foundation is real. Not a PR stunt, not a tax write-off. Real help for real families." "Agreed." "I'll put it in writing if you want." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then we have a deal." Victoria extended her hand. Marcus shook it. And in that moment, in that office, high above Manhattan, two people from completely different worlds made a promise to honor the memory of the people they'd lost by becoming the family those people had always wanted them to be. Lily stirred on the couch. "Daddy." Marcus went to her instantly. "I'm here, sweetheart. I had a dream about Mommy." She was smiling. "She said we did good." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. "Yeah, baby, I think we did. Is Aunt Victoria still here?" "I'm here, Lily." Victoria knelt beside the couch. "How are you feeling?" "Tired. But happy tired." Lily reached out and took Victoria's hand. "Thank you for being nice now. I know you were scared before. Scared people sometimes act mean." Victoria's composure shattered completely. "You're right," she whispered. "I was scared. But I'm not scared anymore." "Good." Lily yawned. "Can we get ice cream later? Mommy always got me ice cream when I was brave." Despite everything, despite the grief and the exhaustion and the weight of the day, Marcus laughed. "Yeah, sweetheart, we can get ice cream." "Can Aunt Victoria come?" Victoria looked at Marcus asking permission. He nodded. "I'd love to," Victoria said softly. "I'd really love to." And so as the sun set over Manhattan, and the news anchors replayed clips of an 8-year-old girl defending her mother's memory, three people who had been strangers a week ago walked out of Sterling Industries together. Not as CEO and janitor and orphan, as family. 3 months changed everything. Marcus stood at the window of the apartment Victoria had helped them find. Not a penthouse, not a mansion, just a comfortable 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood where Lily could walk to school and play in the park. Elena would have loved it. Elena would have cried at the thought of Lily having her own room, her own bed, her own space to grow. "Daddy, I can't find my other shoe." "Did you check under the bed?" "Yes." "Did you really check, or did you just look?" A pause. Then, "Found it." Marcus smiled. Some things never change no matter how much money was in the bank. Today was the official launch of the Elena Cole Foundation. 3 months of planning paperwork and preparation. 3 months of interviews and meetings and decisions that made Marcus's head spin. 3 months of learning to navigate a world he'd never imagined entering. But today, it all became real. Lily appeared in the doorway dressed in the outfit she'd picked out herself. A blue dress that matched her eyes and reminded Marcus painfully of Elena. "How do I look?" "Beautiful. Like your mom." Lily's face softened. "I wish she could be here." "She is here, sweetheart." Marcus touched his chest. "Right here. Always." The Foundation headquarters occupied the entire 5th floor of a building in the Bronx, not Manhattan, despite Victoria's protests. Marcus had insisted. The people they were trying to help lived in places like the Bronx places, like the neighborhood where he and Elena had struggled. If the Foundation was going to serve working families, it needed to be accessible to working families. Victoria had eventually agreed. She was learning slowly, painfully, that her way wasn't always the right way. The crowd gathered for the launch ceremony was a mix of worlds that rarely collided. Business executives in expensive suits stood next to single mothers in worn clothes. Reporters jostled for position alongside social workers and community organizers. Politicians gave speeches about working families, while actual working families waited patiently for the photo ops to end. But among all of them, one woman stood out. Maria Chen, Mrs. Chen, the woman who had checked on Marcus and Lily during those desperate weeks after Elena's death, who had brought them food and offered comfort when they had nothing, stood near the front, tears streaming down her weathered face. "Marcus!" She grabbed his hands the moment he approached. "Elena would be so proud. So incredibly proud. I couldn't have done this without you, Mrs. Chen. Without the food you brought us, the support, the kindness. You kept us alive when we were drowning. That's what neighbors do. That's what communities do. We take care of each other. That's what this foundation is about." Marcus squeezed her hands, making sure no family has to struggle alone. The ceremony began. Victoria spoke first, her voice steady but heavy with emotion. "1 year ago, I was a different person. I measured success by stock prices and market shares. I believed that wealth equaled worth, that people who struggled simply hadn't worked hard enough, that poverty was a choice." She paused. "I was wrong. About everything." The crowd was silent. "My brother David fell in love with a woman named Elena Santos. She was a cleaning woman. She worked 3 jobs. She had nothing that my family valued, no money, no connections, no social standing. And yet she was the love of his life, the best thing that ever happened to him." Victoria's voice cracked. "David died before he knew Elena was pregnant with his child. Elena spent 8 years raising that child alone, working herself to death because she knew that my family would reject her. And she was right. When Marcus Cole walked into my building 3 months ago, I proved every fear Elena ever had. I called him homeless. I looked at his daughter like she was garbage. I was everything Elena was afraid of." She wiped her eyes. But Marcus didn't give up. Lily didn't give up. They stood in my lobby and demanded to be seen, to be heard, to be treated like human beings. And because of their courage, I got a second chance. A chance to meet my niece. A chance to honor my brother's memory. A chance to become the person I should have been all along. Victoria looked at Marcus and Lily standing in the front row. The Elena Cole Foundation exists because one woman loved her daughter enough to sacrifice everything. Elena Cole was not a gold digger. She was not a con artist. She was a hero. And today we honor her memory by helping other families, other mothers and fathers who worked themselves to exhaustion, find the support they deserve. The applause was thunderous. Marcus took the stage next. "I'm not good at speeches." He gripped the podium, steadying himself. "I'm a janitor. Or I was. I'm still not sure what I am now. But I know who I was when I met Elena, and I know who she helped me become." He pulled out the photograph he always carried, Elena and Lily laughing together. "This is my wife. This is my daughter. Elena is gone, but Lily is here." And every day I see Elena in her kindness, her courage, her determination to help others, even when she has every reason to focus on herself." He looked at the crowd. "Elena used to say that wealth isn't about money. It's about love. It's about the people you lift up and the hands you hold. She never had money, but she was the richest person I ever knew, because she had a heart big enough to love everyone she met." His voice broke. "I can't bring her back. God knows I'd give anything to bring her back. But I can make sure her sacrifice meant something. I can make sure other families don't suffer like we suffered. I can make sure no mother ever has to choose between feeding her children and keeping a roof over their heads." Marcus stepped back from the podium. "This foundation, the Elena Cole Foundation, isn't charity. It's justice. It's recognition that every person has worth, every family deserves dignity, and no one should have to work themselves to death just to survive." The crowd rose to its feet, and then Lily approached the microphone. She hadn't planned to speak, but something pulled her forward, some need to add her voice to her mother's legacy. "Hi." Her voice was small but steady. "I'm Lily. I'm 9 years old now." The crowd quieted instantly. "My mommy worked really hard. She was always tired, but she always had time for me. She used to sing songs while she cooked, even though she wasn't a very good singer. She made funny voices when she read me stories. She told me I was her greatest adventure." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "When Mommy died, I was really scared. I didn't know what was going to happen. But Daddy took care of me. He always takes care of me. And now Aunt Victoria takes care of us too." She looked at Victoria, who was crying openly. "Mommy used to say that families aren't just people who share blood. Families are people who love each other and take care of each other. That's what the foundation is about. Helping families, all kinds of families." Lily paused. "I miss my mommy every day, but I know she's watching. And I think she's happy. Because we're helping people. Because her life mattered. Because we're making sure nobody forgets her." The audience wept. After the ceremony, Marcus found himself standing alone in front of a large photograph that dominated one wall of the foundation headquarters. Elena laughing, holding a much younger Lily. The photo had been taken 3 years ago in the cramped apartment they'd lost when Marcus got laid off. They'd had nothing, barely enough money for rent, never enough for extras, but Elena was laughing like she had everything. Because she had. She had Lily. She had Marcus. She had love. She was beautiful. Marcus turned. Victoria stood beside him studying the photograph. She was, inside and out. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if David had lived? If Elena had claimed the inheritance? All the time. Marcus's voice was heavy. I used to think about it every night. What if I'd insisted she see a doctor sooner? What if we'd had money for better care? What if? And now I try to focus on what is. Lily is healthy, she's happy. She's surrounded by people who love her. That's what Elena wanted. That's all she ever wanted. Victoria was quiet for a moment. I found something else in David's things. I've been waiting for the right moment to give it to you. She pulled a small envelope from her jacket. It's a letter. David wrote it to Elena the night before he died. He must have planned to give it to her when he got back from his trip. Marcus took the envelope with trembling hands. Have you read it? No, it's not mine to read. But I think Elena would want you to have it. And maybe when Lily's older, she should have it too. Marcus stared at the envelope. David's handwriting on the front. For Elena, my everything. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you. For giving me a chance I didn't deserve. They stood in comfortable silence, two people who had started as enemies and somehow become family. That night, after Lily was asleep, Marcus sat alone in his bedroom and opened David's letter. My dearest Elena, by the time you read this, I'll be back from Chicago and hopefully holding your hand. But I wanted to write down what I'm feeling, because sometimes words on paper say what my voice can't. I love you. I've loved you since the moment I saw you at that coffee shop struggling to count exact change because your wallet was almost empty. You were so determined, so dignified, so absolutely certain that you could handle everything on your own. I knew right then that you were the strongest person I'd ever meet. My family doesn't understand. They think I'm throwing away my life by loving you. They think you're after my money, that you're not suitable, that I'm making a mistake. They're wrong. You're the best decision I ever made, the only decision that matters. I've been thinking about our future, about the family we'll have, about the life we'll build. I don't care if we live in a mansion or a studio apartment. I don't care if we're rich or poor. All I care about is waking up next to you every morning and falling asleep beside you every night. I have a surprise for you when I get home. Something I've been planning for weeks. I won't tell you what it is, you'll have to wait and see. But I think you'll like it. I think it might make you cry, and I'll be there to hold you, and everything will be perfect. Elena, my love, my heart, my everything. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for loving me despite my family, despite my name, despite everything that separates us. You've shown me what really matters, and I will spend the rest of my life proving that I was worthy of your love. Forever yours, David P.S. I think you might be right about being late. I've been walking on air all day. If it's true when it's true, I promise you this, our child will know how much they were wanted, how much they were loved. They will never ever doubt that they were the greatest gift we could have received. Marcus read the letter 3 times. Then he cried. He cried for David, who had died with so much love left to give. He cried for Elena, who had carried this burden alone for so long. He cried for Lily, who would never know her biological father except through photographs and letters and the stories they told. And he cried for himself, for the life they might have had, for the family they might have been, for all the what-ifs that would never be answered. When the tears finally stopped, Marcus felt something shift inside him. Not peace exactly, but acceptance, understanding. The knowledge that Elena and David's love had created something beautiful, something that had survived death and poverty and prejudice, something that would continue to grow and heal and change the world. He put the letter in the box with the engagement ring David had never gotten to give Elena. Someday, when Lily was older, she would have both. Proof that her parents had loved each other completely. Proof that she had been wanted, desperately wanted from the very beginning. But for now, Marcus kept them safe. For Elena, for David, for the family they should have been. 1 year later, the Elena Cole Foundation had helped over 12,000 families. Emergency housing for parents facing eviction. Child care assistance for single mothers working multiple jobs. Medical coverage for children with conditions their parents couldn't afford to treat. Job training and placement services for workers trapped in dead-end positions. And more than money, more than services, the foundation had given something that couldn't be measured: hope. The knowledge that someone cared, that struggling families weren't invisible, that their lives mattered. Marcus sat in his office at the foundation, reviewing the quarterly report. 12,000 families, over $30 million distributed, hundreds of volunteers, dozens of partner organizations. Elena would have been amazed. Dad? Lily appeared in the doorway. At 10 years old, she was growing faster than Marcus could believe. Taller, more confident, still kind. Hey, sweetheart, what's up? Aunt Victoria's here. She says we're having dinner at Grandma's house. Marcus blinked. Grandma's house. Victoria appeared behind Lily, looking almost sheepish. I was hoping you'd come. It's the anniversary of David's death. My mother wants to meet Lily properly. She's finally ready. Marcus felt a jolt of surprise. Victoria's mother, Elizabeth Sterling, the family matriarch, had refused to acknowledge Lily's existence for the past year. She'd called Elena names that made Victoria threaten to cut her out of the family entirely. She'd been everything Elena feared, and worse. I don't know Victoria. After everything she said, she's changed. Or she's trying to change. Victoria knelt down to Lily's level. Lily, my mother is a difficult woman. She's said things that were wrong and hurtful. But she wants to meet you. She wants to apologize. What do you think? Lily considered this seriously. Will she be nice now? She's going to try. Then I'll try too. Lily looked at Marcus. Mommy always said trying is the first step, right, Daddy? Marcus's heart clenched. Yeah, baby, she did. Elizabeth Sterling's house was exactly what Marcus expected. Old money. Old traditions, old prejudices soaked into every wall. But when she opened the door, she wasn't the ice queen he'd imagined. She was a frail woman in her 80s, leaning on a cane with eyes that had cried recently and hands that trembled slightly. You're Lily. Her voice was soft-cracked. You look just like your father. Lily studied her great-grandmother carefully. You said mean things about my mommy. Elizabeth flinched. Yes, I did. And I'm very, very sorry. Why did you say them? Because I was scared. Because I was wrong. Because I'd spent my whole life believing things that weren't true. Elizabeth lowered herself carefully to Lily's level. Your mother was a brave woman. She loved your father, and she raised you all alone, and she never asked anyone for help. That's not a gold digger. That's a hero. Lily was quiet for a long moment. Mommy said people can change if they really want to. Do you really want to? More than anything. I've lost so much time already. I don't want to lose any more. Lily reached out and took Elizabeth's wrinkled hand. Okay. But you have to be nice to Daddy too. He's the best daddy in the whole world. Elizabeth looked at Marcus. Her eyes were wet. I know he is. I know that now. The dinner was awkward at first. Too much history, too much pain, too many things that couldn't be unsaid. But Lily, with her mother's gift for seeing the best in people, slowly drew everyone out of their shells. She asked Elizabeth about David, about what he was like as a child, about his dreams and hopes and the things that made him laugh. And Elizabeth, who had buried her son and then buried her grief under layers of bitterness and denial, finally let herself remember. Finally, let herself talk about the boy who had grown into a man who had fallen in love with a cleaning woman and been happier than he'd ever been in his life. He used to draw pictures. Elizabeth said, her voice thick with memory. Constantly. Houses, families, gardens. He said he was designing his future. I told him to stop being silly and focus on his business studies. She wiped her eyes. He was right. I was wrong. About that, and about so much else. Can you teach me to draw? Lily asked. Like Daddy David did. Elizabeth's composure shattered completely. I would love to, she whispered. I would love nothing more. After dinner, Marcus found himself alone with Victoria in the garden. Thank you, she said quietly, for giving her a chance, for giving all of us a chance. Elena would have wanted it. She never held grudges. She always believed people could change. She was remarkable. She was. And so is Lily. Marcus looked back at the house where Lily was showing Elizabeth something on her phone. She has Elena's heart, Victoria. This incredible ability to see good in people who don't deserve it. She has your heart too. Your strength. Your determination. Victoria paused. Marcus, I need to tell you something. What? The board tried to remove me as CEO last week. Harold made one final push, claiming that my focus on the foundation was hurting the company. What happened? I let them vote. And then I used Lily's shares, with your permission, of course, through the trusteeship to shut them down completely. Victoria smiled grimly. Harold resigned this morning. The new board is much more cooperative. You used Lily's shares to protect your position. No. I used Lily's shares to protect the foundation. Harold wanted to redirect funding, reduce the endowment, make the Elena Cole Foundation a shell organization that existed only for tax purposes. Her voice hardened. I wasn't going to let that happen. Elena deserved better. Lily deserved better. Marcus studied her. A year ago, you would have sided with Harold. A year ago, I was a different person. Victoria looked at the stars. David changed me before he died. I just didn't realize it until I met his daughter, until I saw what kind of person Elena raised, until I understood what I'd missed by being so focused on money and status and all the things that don't actually matter. So what matters? This. Victoria gestured at the house where Lily's laughter could be heard through the open window. Family, love, the people we choose to care about. That's what matters. That's all that matters. Marcus nodded slowly. Elena knew that. She always knew that. She was smarter than all of us combined. They stood in comfortable silence, listening to Lily laugh, watching the stars appear one by one. 3 years later, Marcus stood in the Foundation headquarters, surrounded by photographs that told the story of everything they'd built. Families helped over 50,000. Money distributed $200 million. Lives changed impossible to count. But beyond the numbers, there were faces. Stories. Individual human beings who had been drowning and were now standing on solid ground. A single mother who had received emergency housing and now worked as a foundation counselor, helping others navigate the system that had once nearly destroyed her. A father who had been laid off and received job training, now running his own small business and hiring other foundation recipients. A teenager who had received a scholarship and was now studying medicine, determined to become a doctor in her old neighborhood. Elena's legacy growing larger every day. Mr. Cole. Marcus turned. A young woman stood in the doorway, professional, confident, carrying a folder. I'm Sarah Mitchell, the new program coordinator for the educational initiative. Nice to meet you, Sarah, and please call me Marcus. Marcus. She smiled. I wanted to thank you, personally. For what? For giving me a chance. 2 years ago, I was a single mother working 3 jobs just like Elena Cole. My daughter was sick and I couldn't afford her medication. The foundation paid for her treatment, helped me get into a training program, gave us a new start. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I'm here because Elena Cole's story inspired me. Because I saw someone who had been where I was and refused to give up. And I wanted to be part of making sure other families got the same chance. Marcus felt his throat tighten. That's exactly why we built this place. I know. And I promise you, I promise Elena, I'll spend the rest of my life making sure her legacy continues. After Sarah left, Marcus stood alone with his thoughts. Elena would have loved this. Not the money, not the recognition, not the buildings and programs and headlines. She would have loved the people, the connections, the knowledge that her struggle had meaning, that her sacrifice had purpose. Lily appeared in the doorway. At 12 years old, she was growing into a remarkable young woman. Same brown hair, same gold-flecked eyes, same fierce determination that had carried her mother through impossible years. Dad, Aunt Victoria says it's time. Marcus nodded. Today was the 3rd anniversary of the Foundation's launch. They were dedicating a new wing, a medical clinic that would provide free health care to families who couldn't afford insurance. They'd named it the Elena Cole Health Center. The ceremony was smaller than the original launch, but more meaningful. No politicians looking for photo ops. No reporters searching for scandals. Just families, staff, volunteers, and the people who had built something extraordinary from grief and determination and love. Victoria spoke first. 3 years ago, I learned that my brother had a daughter who had grown up poor while I lived in luxury. A daughter whose mother had worked herself to death while I counted my money. I was horrified. I was ashamed. And I was determined to make things right. She gestured at the clinic behind her. This building represents everything the Sterling family should have been and wasn't. Compassion instead of contempt. Support instead of judgment. Love instead of cold calculation. She paused. Elena Cole never set foot in this building. She'll never see the lives we've changed or the families we've helped. But her spirit is in every brick, every program, every person we serve. Victoria looked at Marcus and Lily. 3 years ago, a man walked into my building with a worn envelope and a little girl. I treated him like garbage. I called him homeless. I assumed the worst about him and about the woman he loved. I was everything Elena feared, and I proved every prejudice she had ever held about wealthy families. Her voice cracked. Marcus Cole gave me a second chance I didn't deserve. Lily Cole gave me a family I never knew I wanted. And together they taught me that wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in kindness, in compassion, in the people you lift up and the hands you hold. She stepped back. Marcus took the podium. I'm still not good at speeches. He smiled at the scattered laughter. But I've gotten better at telling Elena's story. And I've learned something important. Elena's story isn't just about one woman. It's about millions of women, millions of fathers, millions of families struggling to survive in a world that seems designed to crush them. He looked at the faces in the crowd, working people, struggling people, people who had been where he was and understood. Elena died because she was too proud to ask for help. She died because she believed nobody would help her anyway. She died because the gap between rich and poor in this country is so vast that people on opposite sides might as well be living on different planets. His voice hardened. We can't bring Elena back. We can't undo the years she suffered or give her the life she deserved. But we can make sure her sacrifice wasn't meaningless. We can make sure other families don't have to choose between food and medicine, between rent and childcare, between survival and dignity. He stepped back from the podium. This clinic, this building, is Elena's gift to the world. Every family we help, every life we save, every child who grows up healthy because of what we do here. That's Elena's legacy. That's what she died for. And that's what we'll keep fighting for, as long as there are families who need us. The applause was thunderous. But Marcus barely heard it. He was looking at Lily, who stood beside Victoria, with tears streaming down her face and pride shining in her eyes, Elena's eyes. That night, after the ceremony ended and the crowds dispersed, Marcus and Lily visited the small garden behind the clinic. There was a bench there placed under a flowering tree. A plaque on the bench read, "In loving memory of Elena Maria Cole. Beloved mother, devoted wife, hero. Love is the only thing that really matters." They sat together in the fading light. Dad. Yeah, sweetheart. Do you think Mom can see us from wherever she is? Marcus considered the question carefully. I think the people we love never really leave us. They're in our hearts, in our memories, in the things we do, because they taught us to do them. He put his arm around Lily. Every time you're kind to someone, that's your mom. Every time you help someone who's struggling, that's your mom. Every time you refuse to give up, even when things are hard, that's your mom. Lily leaned against him. I miss her. Me too, sweetheart. Every single day. But I'm glad we came here, to New York, to Aunt Victoria, to all of this. Lily gestured at the clinic, the garden, the life they'd built. Mom wanted me to have a family, a real family, and now I do. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. She'd be so proud of you, Lily, so incredibly proud. I know. Lily's voice was soft but certain. I feel it. Sometimes when I'm helping at the foundation, or talking to kids whose parents are struggling, I feel her with me, like she's guiding me, showing me what to do. That's because she is. She always will be. They sat in silence as the stars emerged one by one, filling the sky with light. Finally, Lily spoke again. Dad. Yeah. Thank you. For not giving up. For walking into that building, even though you were scared. For fighting for me, even when they called you names and tried to make you feel small. Marcus's throat tightened. I'd do it again. 1,000 times. 1,000,000 times. I know. Lily hugged him tight. That's what makes you the best daddy in the world. Marcus held his daughter, Elena's daughter, David's daughter, his daughter, and let the tears fall. They had lost so much. Elena's life, David's future, years of connection and love and family that could never be recovered. But they had found something too. Something precious. Something worth fighting for. Each other. And in the end, Marcus understood what Elena had known all along. Wealth wasn't measured in dollars or stock prices or inheritance claims. Wealth was measured in the people who loved you, the family you built, the legacy you left behind. Elena Cole had been the wealthiest person Marcus ever knew, and her legacy would last forever. He looked up at the stars, still holding Lily close. "We did it, Elena," he whispered. "We really did it." And somewhere in the vast universe where love never dies, he could have sworn he heard her answer. "I always knew you would." Marcus Cole walked into Sterling Industries with nothing but a worn envelope and a daughter's hand in his. He walked out with a family, a purpose, and the knowledge that one woman's sacrifice had changed the world. Elena Cole never saw the buildings that bore her name or the lives her foundation transformed. She never knew that her story would inspire millions, that her daughter would grow up surrounded by love, that the family she feared would become the family she always wanted. But her legacy lived on in every family the foundation helped, in every child who grew up healthy because of her sacrifice, in every person who learned that struggling didn't mean worthless and poor didn't mean invisible. Elena Cole was a cleaning woman who worked 3 jobs and died at 36. Elena Cole was a hero. And heroes never really die. They live on in the hearts they touched, the lives they changed, and the love they left behind. Forever.